spotlight on the women creating an impact, leading organizations, and mission-focused strategic programs across the federal technology and consulting community. This is Impact. I'm being joined today by Laura Howton, the Director of Sales at Carahsoft Technology Corporation. Laura, thank you for hopping on with me today.
Yeah, thank you for the time.
Absolutely. Tell me first of all what it is you do over there at Carahsoft.
So I've been with Carahsoft about 12 years. I'm a sales leader running a team of about 60 people, focusing on about 30 technology solutions. And our goal is, as a proactive sales and marketing company, to help support our customers with getting the solutions they need, helping educate them about what solutions are out there.
Great. So now tell me, what early experiences or challenges in your career helped you develop the confidence to lead, and how can other women find that same empowerment?
So I was always very fortunate to have managers that really encouraged me to learn through doing, and knowing that they had my back while I felt things out and made adjustments as I needed to. But then 5 years into my career, I had a car accident that really limited my physical ability from what it was before. I had 5 doctor's appointments a week for a year or two. So it was a big distraction from what I'd been going through. But I realized, the limitations with my body made me really grateful that my brain wasn't impacted from that. So I was able to focus on work as something I could control and gain confidence in. That said, of course, I felt a level of guilt for the time away and for not feeling like my optimum self. But one of the things that I read that really helped me was from an Olympian who said, you can be proud of yourself and want more of yourself at the same time. And when factors outside of your control impact your ability to do your best, you have to redefine what doing your best is. So I was doing my best as an employee who was also spending a lot of time and energy recovering from a car accident. I also had to learn a little bit of patience and have incremental progress and just commit to doing a little bit better each day. And through therapy, also making sure that I was giving myself credit for it would be easier to sit on the couch and be sad about it. But I showed up and not just thinking about my to-do list, but what I have accomplished. So I'm really happy to be in a much better place than I was from the car accident. But going through that and the fear and the loss of time and ability through that made me realize that my pre-accident self wasn't as idealized as I thought it was. Cause I reflected on this conversation where I was talking to a friend about scheduling and I didn't have time, and it was in August, and I'd said something to her like, I haven't even seen one of my best friends of 30 years. I've only seen them once this time. And that was in August. Wow. And I realized my ambition and commitment to work was the only thing in my life I was caring about. And I think with the car accident, that made me really reflect on, yes, it's great to get a lot of value and passion from work, but what's the whole purpose of this if I'm not stemming those relationships? One thing I thought that's really interesting, and I'm having my whole team go through it, is Paul Meyer's Wheel of Life, where you put sections and you kind of fill in, family, community, friends, hobbies, work. And realizing I was putting all my time and energy into work, I went through and I put together a list of all the other things that make me me and make me happy, like making sure that regardless of what's going on, I'm committed to having dinner with my stepson multiple times a week, making sure I'm calling my grandma, making sure I'm going to events and spending time with all the relationships that are important to me. And I think since I shifted my focus and my energy from being 100% work-centric, I think it's helped me build a lot better connections with my team members. And I think I'm a lot better employee too. I was at an event and heard Catherine Price talk about the power of fun, and actively seeking out fun can energize you and help you be a lot more productive when you are at work. So when I work, I think about, man, I'm so happy that doing this allowed me to go to that concert with my best friend or allowed me to go travel with my family. And realizing the why I work helps me feel gratitude when I'm having that experience. And also when I am working and it's a little harder, it's like, man, but how bad do you want to go to that next event? So I think really consciously thinking about that plants grow where you water them, and you can still be a great employee. But what I want for my team members now is I want them to care and do a good job, but I want them to be feeding those relationships with their family and with their hobbies and with their interests, and making sure that they do have some boundaries to allow the rest of themselves grow, because I wouldn't want on my tombstone to be my tombstone to be, here's Laura. She really cared about work and we never saw her. That was a big thing too that I had to think about. And I feel like as a woman, we also feel very, or at least I was raised to feel very structured around doing household chores. And I realized how bad I'd be feeling. My friends would want to go and meet up at a winery, and I'd say, oh, I have to fold the laundry. The house isn't as clean. But what am I really going to remember? Like, what is going to fuel my energy to make me a better employee and a better person to be around? I'm not going to look back and be like, man, thank God I folded my laundry that day. And also, I've never shown up at one of my, like, even when I was dealing with my car accident and I didn't feel comfortable with my appearance and how my body felt, I've never had a best friend come over and I've been like, you should go home. I don't think you've cleaned your house well enough. Or, you don't look physically cute enough to hang out with me right now. That's not how I treat my friends. So realizing it's safe. Yes, do the chores that will make you be happy, but no one who actually loves you is going to come into your space and say, I don't want to spend time with the person you are because of the chaos in your life. I think also realizing that, again, just listening to your instincts and really learning how to live in between all or nothing. Because I used to say no to things, but I kind of realized in a fortunate way, I can walk out of any room that no longer serves me. So maybe I don't go and stay with my friends at the event the whole time. But if it's not something where someone spent a ton of money for me to be there, I'll go and show up. And the people I'm spending time with, if they really care about me, after an hour, I can say, hey, I'm not really able to focus and enjoy this experience because these other things are nagging me. I should go home and do it. So I think learning to be comfortable with that in between has really, really helped. Thanks for my car accident.
Yes. One of my least favorite things is when an entire year will go by and you'll be like, man, where did that year go? And you feel like you didn't really experience the year. It just sort of happened. And I found like over the last week, because it seemed like it was happening quite a bit as you get older, but the last few years I've been trying to be more in the moment and being at the end of the year being like, oh, we did so much in this year and there's so much memories that I created. And that's really important too.
Yeah, I try to actually go back through my calendar every once in a while and write them down as a list of all the things that made me happy this year. And if I'm having a hard day, going back and remembering those. So I actually have it written on a whiteboard that's at my kitchen table. So I see it every day and I'm like, here's the other plants I need to be watering while I'm growing as a professional.
Correct. So can you share a moment when you felt particularly proud of your impact as a leader? And what does that say about the potential for women to influence change?
Yeah. So one of my really proud individual moments was last year. Our team really focused in some of our initiatives, like helping customers understand and get paired with the right technology or, qualifying them for a vendor was incredibly important. It always has been, but the stakes were turned up a little bit. And there were 6 members of our team who had been with the company over 3 years. And that was always not a strong suit for them. They had a lot of other great capabilities, but this was a bigger emphasis and we needed them to do well at that. And throughout the course of that year, they incrementally doubled their results and then were able to consistently maintain that. And people who would have a lot of dips in performance completely elevated their performance. Sometimes were some of the highest across the team. And that made me so incredibly proud, kind of teaching old dogs new tricks. And I think that's a really good example of persistence and not really letting your past define you. So those team members, like, we try to encourage them, hey, just because you weren't able to get these results before doesn't mean you aren't able to get them now. So I think there's the kind of idea of never giving up on yourself, but also not giving up on those team members. I thought that was one of the biggest indicators of growth with me and their direct managers, was that we were able to get those people who'd been there for a long time and pretty consistent with what they were doing, becoming top performers and being able to really turn that around. So realizing that some people learn at different paces. And I always tell my team members, part of it is self-fulfilling prophecy, and you have to just commit to doing it. But I'm big into music, and Fall Out Boy says, sugar, we're going down swinging. If you're not hitting your goals, use every possible resource to do that. So seeing those team members really flourish has always made me the most excited. And I had another one of those moments a couple weeks ago with some team members who'd been here about 3 years. Very great. But there was one sticking point, and seeing them finally turn that corner felt really exciting and encouraging, and just seeing them build that confidence and tell themselves they are capable. But one of the things I think about a lot that isn't one moment, but I realize it in a lot of moments, but I get so much pride on the leadership team below me in the silence and in the victories when I realize, oh, wow, look how self-sufficient they are. Like, I haven't had to help with a problem for this vendor in a long time. So I always try to keep that in mind too when they come to me for things, which we talk outside of problem solving a lot. But when I realize, man, 99.3% of the time, you got that. Like, you are independently owning that side of your business. You are running it. You're growing in that confidence and that ability. So I try to make sure for our team members too, like, results are very important. We need to have the data that backs it up, but I do want to make sure they know that I give them credit for all the things that they're not bringing to me. I'm like, man, look at how much of the time that you've owned that. And I try to give myself that grace when I need to ask for help on something. I'm like, man, think of the millions of things I have learned and trusted my ability and didn't need to ask anyone for.
Okay, so now how do you navigate the balance between assertiveness and empathy in your leadership style, and why is this balance particularly important for women in leadership?
So I think in women, you'll hear the perceptions of being very far on one spectrum. Either someone's really aggressive and it feels like they're trying hard to be a man, or they're too weak and emotional. So I really try to lead with enthusiasm and vulnerability, which again is a huge difference than what I was a bit before my car accident. I read a book recently about leadership and self-deception, and they talked about being in the box is when you're thinking of others as kind of an obstacle that's just causing you problems, and being out of the box is thinking of them as people having their own experience. And I don't think I was ever that far on the spectrum, but realizing that and realizing my impact from my car accident and all the things that would impact me, I was like, oh, maybe this person has all these physical pains that are bothering them, or is going through these. So putting myself in other people's shoes, but I know that I'm emotional. I have a lot of passion for things that I do. I always say the first plastic surgery I'm getting is tear duct reduction surgery, because my eyes will betray me all of the time.
Yes, same.
But which is hard, but I always try to make sure that I am prepared with data, so that yes, I am emotional, but my decisions are business and data driven. I care a lot about them. But I think it can be both. And because of that and that empathy, I am able to kind of proactively provide context to my team and warn them. That's something our president does a great job of, is if he just got off a really tough meeting, or had, hasn't had lunch yet and you walk over, he's always happy and available to talk, but he'll also give you that context and be like, man, that was a rough call. Like, I'm here if you need me right now, but otherwise, like, I don't want my current mind state to impact our interaction. So I always try to give my team that heads up, and it doesn't always need to be a lot of disclosure, but especially most of my team is remote. So they're not in the office seeing if maybe my posture is different or the look on my face all day. So I want to let them know, hey, having a little trouble this morning. So if I seem off, know that it's not you. Again, the show must go on. I'm here, but wanted to give you context. Like, trust me, you're not the reason I'm in a little bit of a funk right now. But so I think because I do normally come across with a lot of enthusiasm, I think that's also important because when I am very assertive with my team, it's impactful because it doesn't happen very often. It's a clear deviation from my normal tone. And even though I'm going to be firm and straightforward about how important the topic is, I also make sure to reiterate why the desired outcome is in all of our best interests. So I want to let them know, like, this is wrong. This needs to be fixed. Like, I'm here rooting for you. If you get this better outcome, here's how it's going to help you professionally. Like, it helps me professionally if you're doing better. We're all in this together, but you need to get serious about making this adjustment. So I always try to be fair and think, hey, what are the ways that I would want to, like, every email and every phone call and every meeting, I try to take it as though the president is sitting right next to me. And also if my parents are sitting right next to me, because I want them to be proud of me as a human too. But just trying to make sure that I'm representing the brand and also being really consistent. I think I work hard to provide a fair line of helping make sure everyone understands the whys of both the exciting and the challenging part of our business. But there is sometimes a line where I have to say, hey, I've explained this reason to you for the last 10 minutes. It's not productive for us to go on for another 45 minutes. This is a core part of the business. I'm going to help you be successful with it, but we need to move forward.
That makes sense. So what advice would you offer to women facing self-doubt or imposter syndrome in their leadership roles, and how can they build a more positive self-image?
So facing self-doubt is, I think a lot of people deal with that. One big thing that I learned and was really helpful for me to go through in my head when I was telling myself I wasn't good enough or I was messing everything up, I would make a list and I'd be like, all right, I'm really mad at myself. Is my senior director yelling at me? Is my vice president yelling at me? Is my president yelling at me? If none of my managers are mad at me about this thing, I need to stop yelling at myself and telling myself it's not good enough. So trusting the feedback of the people who have put you in a position of influence and the responsibilities you've given, say, hey, but if I'm doing something wrong, they're going to let me know. It doesn't help to beat myself into the ground, because if it was really a problem, the people who care about me and who I've learned from will course correct me. So I think that's something that's really important. And I try to set for my team too is, hey guys, if you're doubting yourself, you're doubting me because I believe in you. Do you think I've made it here? Okay. Yes. Like, we're always working hard to give you more training materials than we had. But I think it's like, no, let's go try and we'll figure it out together, but I'm betting on you. So please don't tell me that I'm wrong here. And I think that's another thing that really helped me with kind of self-doubt is, what if this one thing I do or this one thing I don't complete quick enough before the deadline, if that's going to ruin the whole business. One thing my manager said to me is, it's not that fragile. Like, if, again, trust the foundation that you have built. Like, look at everything you've done leading up to this point that has helped you build this business. Like, again, if that one email that's not worded perfectly, or if that one scenario tears down the years of hard work that's gone into this business, there were some other things that we needed to correct in the first place. It wasn't that solid to begin with. So I think that's something that's really important, is just trusting your foundation and everything that has gotten you to that point. And also, one thing I see some of my newer managers go to struggle with is, again, making that leap, but also reinforcing with them, I trust you. And to an extent, like, it is very important, but it is not that serious. Jimmy Eat World says you'll sit around forever if you wait for the right time. And you don't want to do necessarily, obviously there's some instances, but you don't want to spend 5 weeks to make it the perfect bulletproof plan. If you can get started sooner and iterate on it and start learning, sometimes you need to move forward with good enough and not perfect and refine it. I kind of say, hey, is it illegal? Is it immoral? Is it going to lose us a lot of money? Is it against our company's values? Do it. And also helping get the leaders on my team who doubt themselves to say, hey, you are a leader. I'm telling you to go and do this. But just as you make this decision, you can change that decision. We're not making a blood oath here. We're going to take the data. We're going to take people's opinions. We're going to move in this direction. But we can also say, oh, that wasn't the right direction. Let's change that. So keeping that in mind. One thing I tell people too who are having trouble kind of doubting their abilities, and this works both with professional and personal, is thinking of all the things that you've gotten through up this point. I've kind of started thinking about the challenges that I've overcome as like Girl Scout badges I've earned, or like in Game of Thrones, Arya Stark's lists that she would say every time. And I make a list of that. Like, you know what? I've survived all of those hard things I've done up to this point. They haven't broken me. If they did, I learned from them. So having a list and thinking about all the other hard and intimidating stuff you've done. So saying, hey, recover from a car accident. Done that. Like, if that ever happens again, I know the path. Had a big presentation. I have multiple Girl Scout badges of having done those, and I've done those before, and they're going to make you more successful. And, I talked to one of my friends too, who was going through a divorce, and I'm like, hey, now you've experienced that, but like, you have experience of being a good partner. And if it happens again, like, don't want that to happen a lot, obviously. But it's like, you can handle it. Look what you survived. Look what you conquered. So I think both personally and professionally, when you have that doubt, kind of look at your resume of all the small foundational things you've done that have just hardened your shell and made you that much more competent.
Okay, so now looking ahead, what legacy do you hope to leave for future generations of women leaders, and how can they build on your journey?
So the legacy I want to leave is being an enthusiastic learner. I think being open to receiving new information and then figuring out how you can optimize it and then making it scale is really important. Trying to let go of some of the details and trust, again, the foundation that you've built. But I'd also say keeping up the idea that there is plenty of room on the podium. One of the most rewarding things about the work that I've done here, and the confidence I've built through my job, is that you want to make sure that your personal brand is something that people see your name and they say, oh, I trust that that's going to be a quality outcome. And being able to make your name and your work mean something, and then using that to empower others. So if people have seen my work and thought it was good, then hopefully when I tell them that someone else is doing a great job, they take that into consideration and say, oh, well, her criteria of doing well is pretty high, so this person must be great. So using what you build to be able to bring other people up and give them opportunities is so important. And I also want people to keep doing their best, but not being discouraged by maybe the organization structure they see in front of them. Just because they have a manager, like that doesn't mean that that manager needs to move or change positions for you to go there. One of the things that I think has been really great is some of my team members who were doing really well on one team as an account rep, we had a new opportunity to support a new vendor. And we said, hey, you're doing a great job with this. Let's go give you a bigger opportunity. So don't decide that you're too good for what your current role, or don't look at people in front of you as roadblocks. Keep doing your best that you can do. Trust your mentors and your managers. If they're telling you what to do, try to do that and do that well. And other opportunities will open up for you. Some of my teams that are now managing some big businesses, none of us had even heard of those 2 months, years before it happened. But keep doing the same thing, or keep doing the right thing. And opportunities will come up for you. So I hope people will just focus on communication and seeing people as people and realizing people are doing the best they can under the circumstances, but also encouraging everyone to treat people with empathy and say, hey, I appreciate the experience of working with you, but ultimately we're here for a business. So while I know what it's like to work alongside you, I need to make it so that your numbers and your results make any executive looking anonymously at your output love you just as much as I do. So I hope that there can be a good balance of that and just people being able to grow and take pride and take chances.
Well, Laura, I feel like we just got a really very cool TED Talk from you. That was very inspiring. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for the time. It's one of those things too. Look at, someone said once, look at all the benefits you get from some of the hardest things you go through and just pretend it was on a menu and it said, hey, to get this life experience, the cost I had to pay was that car accident, but it sent me on such a good path from there. So try to use the things that you've gone through and think, hey, how can I make someone else's experience with that a little bit easier? So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you. For listening. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you're keeping up to date on the latest episodes, and learn more at govforum.io.